Today I want to talk a bit about the nuances during meditation and why it's important to be very mindful of what you are actually doing during a meditation. The thing is, when talking to people who have been meditating for a long time, I have found that they have heard of a lot of different techniques and somehow they have settled for doing some of them. But really, many people, in my experience, think about the time that they are sitting. So it is about just doing the meditation and telling oneself, oh yes, I have meditated today for half an hour or an hour. And that is not really effective. It is very important to be distinctly aware of what is going on at every moment during the meditation session. And it does require effort. And usually egos do not like to hear this. They latch onto ideas like, you are already awake, there's nothing to do, it's already awakeness, experiencing everything. But you will notice during meditation sessions, when you are very careful, that this is all talk, this is all thought going on in the mind. And this is actually keeping you from really waking up. When you have a lot of ideas, a lot of concepts around what enlightenment is, and maybe you have already a very sophisticated understanding of what enlightenment is, that is actually a danger in and of itself. Because when you meditate, you will notice oftentimes that your thought process is, and your distractions in that case, are about your meditation. And that's very, very tricky, because you may think that while you are having the concept in your mind of what you want to concentrate on, so for example, you decided to focus on the breath, and then you form a concept around what the breath is. After maybe noticing it only for a few times, you have a concept of what it is, and then your thinking mind comes into place and tries to explain what it is that you're experiencing. Maybe even, this is the present moment, I'm aware of it, that's it, maybe I'm even enlightened, and you don't really look further. And the concept of what you are experiencing is there's a fine difference between actually being aware in the present moment or being aware of the concept of your experience. For example, when you concentrate on the breath, it's easy to mistake the idea of, oh yeah, I'm breathing in right now, and this is followed by the breathing out, and to put this process into a mental construct and then be aware of that. So you are more like focusing on the idea of breathing than on the very, very fine and really unknowable experience that the breath is in the moment. Because when you really focus in on it and let all concept go away to the side, there is no breathing in or breathing out. That's being in mental concept, that's being in time. But in the present moment, the process of breathing really becomes very, very mysterious. You have to train yourself to focus so much on the present moment that one breathing in is made up of a lot of different experiences. It's millisecond for millisecond that you experience the object that you are focusing on. And it's fresh, always, every time. And it's difficult because your mind will string a concept out of this present moment, and then you are quickly back into your concept of breathing. But that's not really being present, and it's very difficult. And you have to be so mindful, because it happens so often that you get drawn into time, into what just happened maybe a few seconds, few moments ago, and make a story out of that. And that is also especially true for all of the things that you hear or feel during your meditation. Because when you hear a bird in the background, what do you hear? If you would be really 100% present, you would not hear. You would see that there is nothing there, that the bird, the sound of the bird only arises as the concept. But if you're super tuned into the present moment, there's just some mysterious fluctuation in consciousness going on at that moment, what you call the sound of a bird. But it's really not graspable, it's completely empty, and it is not the sound of a bird. That's the concept that you have. And really, the way to meditate is to be so focused in on the present moment that you notice all of these concepts very quickly and you give them up. You notice them, you recognize them and say, oh yeah, that's my concept of whatever it is. And I'm here not even talking about being drawn into bigger concepts of your life, of your past memories, of what happened, of what you will do in the future. These are like really deep concepts that are obvious, I hope, at this point when you are deeper into the meditative process. And those will come up a lot too, and you have to let them go as well. But what I mean here is all of these tiny micro concepts that come up every second of your experience. And then you sit there in meditation and you recognize them ever more quickly and you give them just up. You let them go. I like to imagine to let them go into white light, to let them dissolve. And then you quickly return and you dial your focus back in on this emptiness that's just there in every moment, because it's not really actually awareness, because it's also not focus, because these are things that are still experienced. They are still somehow arising out of this nothingness. But you're just there, you focus back in on, and you have to practice it with something. So it's helpful to have an object of meditation, an object to focus on. But this will dissolve, you will see over time as well. And then it's just a mysterious flow from moment to moment, and you recognize that everything that you experience, whether that's in a meditation session or in your daily life, is just an expression, just a condensed form of this nothingness. But that really nothing is going on. And it's something that you usually first break through to during very intense meditation sessions. And that's the difference between just sitting for a predetermined amount of time just to do your practice and something you do very intentionally and with effort. It's not easy. it requires that you are diligently observing your mind, what is going on, and pushing this focus back on the object, but I rather like to call it just being, or being this nothingness, because what you will recognize over time is that even the object that you are focusing on doesn't have any substance to it. And once that dissolves as well, once you have dissolved your object of meditation, you can really just be without the need to focus on anything specific. But that usually takes a lot of time. So if you haven't been to that place where everything dissolved into that nothingness, I recommend you stick to a technique, maybe a mantra, or focusing on a specific object, whether that's in your mind, whether that's a chakra, or whether that's a sound that you hear internally, or something that you think over and over, like an internal mantra, or maybe even something you imagine in your third eye. So there are many different ways to concentrate your focus. But what is important is that which I explained earlier, that you are very, very diligently after recognizing these micro concepts, and that your focus is actually not on the object, but on it's escaping into those concepts, whether that's something really from your life, some thought that you are thinking about, then you let go of those, of course. But it can also be that you escape into past and future as a concept of your meditation. And that's really, really sometimes difficult to discern, but I've noticed it so many times over and over again that and the effect is very different. That's why I mention it. I wanted to mention it because being lost in the concept about your meditation, about what you're doing right now, and maybe even explaining it to yourself, it doesn't have the same effect as being ultimately in that nothingness, in that witnessing presence. It's still being, you could say, ego stuck in a story. Only that, and it's even more tricky because that story is about you meditating. That's what makes it so difficult to recognize. But it's sneaky. It's there. I think you will know what I mean when you experience the difference between actually being completely free of concept, present, focused, and being lost in your concept of being focused on the object. That's what I meant earlier. Just to make it clear once more, because I'm not sure if this was very easy to understand. Because, for example, when you are focusing on your breath, it's easy to have the idea, or your focus on the idea of breathing, which is then a concept that is living kind of in time. And that would be, oh yeah, now I'm breathing in. And while you may not be consciously thinking that, it involves on that this moment is followed by breathing out. And this is followed by another breath in. And it will feel like this, and it will be like this, and it will be like this for the remaining time of my meditation. That's all implicit in this concept that you may still have of that you are actually meditating right now. But that's so similar to the concept of your whole ego existence, of your whole life, that it must be let go of in meditation as well. So when you choose your meditation object, several times a second even, you have to try to get back to the thing itself. Really, like every millisecond, try to grab it. The moment it arises, the breath, what it feels like, maybe if that's your object, on the tip of the nose, and really like get to it. And then the magic will happen, because when you are able to do that long enough, you will discover that it is completely empty, that there is nothing there, you could say, underneath the experience of meditating, of being, of what you usually call reality. And then the sound of a bird can come up, and when you are so present, you will hear it very differently. You will hear it for what it is. It will be just an expression of this emptiness. It will have no substance to it. It will have no sound to it. Actually, when you are in that awareness, in that state, you recognize that there is no qualitative difference between a sensation, a physical sensation, and a sound, or a sight, or a thought. Because the substance of it all is the same emptiness. It's the same unknowable ground that it all arises from. Just later, much later up the chain, when you are in concept on this actual, in this state of human everyday awareness level of consciousness, only then, immediately, you have attached a concept around what you experience. Only then does it become sound, or sight, or thought, or feeling, or emotion. So, while they are all fluctuations in consciousness, you could say, or waves, disturbances of this empty field, while that's their true nature, you could say, they become what you perceive them to be right now only through conceptualization. And that happens in time. It happens very quickly. That's why you have to be super laser focused, so that you don't get every second pulled into concept. Because when something comes up, your mind interprets it and strings the story out of that vibration that's just happening right now. And then you perceive that ripple in your consciousness that lasts like for a few milliseconds or seconds if it's something longer, and then it makes a story out of that. And sometimes even when it's already gone, your mind is still like hearing the after effects or producing after effects from that. But then when you are in that concept, you have already lost what's going on actually right now, in a very fine, tiny place that's eternal, but where actually everything is happening. And when you are able to do that, to focus in so completely, and it will be probably for most people a very long journey until you are able to do that, but then you are awake. When you're so present, so able to be there, then you are outside of concept. Then you are outside of the stories that are created after the fact. and the moment is fresh, beautiful, new every time, always, ever present, nothingness that's expressing itself so beautifully in every moment. So I thought this is something important to share for many of you who are seriously about meditation, who are seriously practicing it to attain enlightenment. Because, yeah, while you could say there is no purpose to meditation and no goal, it's hard to arrive there. It's not like your default state when you just sit down and do nothing. You have to be so elegantly able to do nothing that it's a fine balance between doing and not doing. Because the doing, actually, you could say, happens also in time, but the not doing happens always now. But you have to force yourself somehow to go back to this not doing, not interpreting, not conceptualizing in this very moment. And so focus on your meditation object and not on your concept of your meditation objects. Yeah, that's what I basically wanted to mention in this video, and I hope you got something out of it. Let me know your experiences in meditation in the comments down below. Leave a thumbs up for the video if you liked it and if it was helpful to you. Also, if it wasn't, let me know why, what I can improve, and thanks for watching. See you soon.